156,635 households and more than 250 schools adopting clean cooking alternatives during this period. The Solar Technology and Application Resource Center was established, and the National Renewable Energy Training Center was strengthened, building the skills base and green jobs pipeline, which is required to sustain this transition. New electricity tariff categories for clean cooking and public institutions have been introduced, reducing the cost barrier to adoption. On transport sector, blending of all petroleum premium motor spirit, this is petrol, with 1% fuel grade ethanol commenced, with plans to progressively increase the blending to 5% and above. Under the e-mobility program, Chair, 17 electric vehicle charging stations and over 320 battery swapping stations for 2- and 3-wheelers have been established in collaboration with private sector stakeholders. On the nuclear energy development, preparatory activities for the development of an 8,400 megawatt energy nuclear power plant in Viende district have commenced, and a nuclear training program is being developed at Soroti University as the foundation for the planned Center for Nuclear Science and Technology, building the human capital necessary to support a safe and sovereign nuclear energy programs. Capacity building and human resource is very critical so that we place the hands of nuclear development in the hands of people who are trained. Under the Extractives Industry Development Program, Chair, the Sustainable Extractives Industry Development Program continued to advance across both the minerals and petroleum sub-programs, deepening Uganda's resource quantification, value addition capacity, and infrastructure readiness for first oil. Further work is being undertaken to quantify the remaining mineral resources. In your remarks, you wondered whether we are still maintaining the timelines for first oil, and I'd like to say, Chair, that from what I have been informed, we are still looking at 31st July for technical commissioning of the East African crude oil pipeline, and then fueling of the first vessel is expected to take place in October this year, October-December this year. Mineral sub-program, value addition. Uganda's first tin smelter was commissioned in Imbarara, and this is by Wood Cross in Iruti in Mbarara, with a production capacity of 1,600 tons per year. Wagagai Gold Refinery with between 1.2 to 1.5 tons per year production was launched in Alupe, Busia district, as the first state-of-the-art facility to produce 99.99% pure gold. We continue to license several companies, especially for iron ore exploration, production, and processing. On Uganda National Mining Company, during financial year 2024-2025, the company made progress in operationalizing the statutory 15% free carried state interest in several licenses. The conclusion of the mineral production sharing agreement handed over assets and signing of the joint operation agreement for Kilembe mines unlocking the redevelopment of Uganda's flagship copper cobalt project under a modern commercial framework was key. The company also secured a tin exploration license in Kisoro and rights of use over the Rwengoma Mineral Beneficiation Center as a national demonstration facility for mineral processing and value addition. You remember, Chair, that we have mineral beneficiation centers in regions. So with the establishment of this national mining company, we thought we should place one of them in their hands to be able to learn more and also help. So they are now in charge of Rwengoma Mineral Beneficiation Center. Then on geothermal, high temperature gradients have been confirmed at Chiviro and Panimur, with drilling underway to access electricity generation potential from the 27 identified geothermal sites, a resource that will diversify Uganda's energy mix and provide baseload power for industrial zones. On petroleum sub-program, Uganda's petroleum sub-program continues to ensure steady supply of petroleum products and advance towards first oil, representing one of the most transformative economic undertakings in the country. On the supply of products, as of 27th March 2026, Uganda's fuel stock levels and the inland supply chain remained stable and sufficient to meet the short-term national demand. The available stocks for distribution to Uganda were about 81 million liters of petrol, 80 million liters of diesel, and about 18 million liters of Jet A1. These volumes translate to approximately 22 days of stock cover for petrol, 23 days of stock cover for diesel, and 30 days of stock cover for Jet A1, meaning that these stocks take Uganda into the end of April. And in addition, the ministry, through Uganda National Oil Company, is scheduled to receive confirmed vessel deliveries from the end of March 2026, which was yesterday, into April 2026, mainly through the Mombasa port, with quantities of petroleum products destined to Uganda indicating a favorable, stable supply chain. These are to be complemented with supplies through Tanzania, where the multiple available ports of Tanga, Dar es Salaam, and Mtwara to enhance security of supply. The expected additional quantities that should be accessed from beginning of April 2026 and up to about 195 million liters of petrol, 155 million liters of diesel, and 24 million liters of Jet A1, translating the additional days of stock cover of 52 days for petrol, 44 days for diesel, and 39 days for Jet A1. I must pause here and thank you, Chair, for having accepted to amend the Act to allow UNOC be the sole importer with their identified able supplier, Vitol. This puts Uganda in a better position than even Kenya, where we are landlocked. They are not landlocked, but we stand in a better position than them as I speak. And they are more worried than ourselves. You raised something on the pump prices, sir. We have been engaging oil marketing companies. If it wasn't for that continuous engagement, the prices would be high, 8,000, because Ugandans are fond of, using opportunities to make obscene profits. Even yesterday, but one, the PS engaged them. They were giving all sorts of reasons to increase palm prices. But we said, yes, we are aware of the foreign, yes, forex exchange, but you must merge your increase with the percentage of the increase in forex exchange. Otherwise, they want to jump all the time. So we are continuing to engage with them. We know the logistics that have accompanied the stringent movement of products. We know. But we are watching how the speed at which the prices are raising. And I must say that at least we've contained them. It would have been a different situation. In February 2026, UNOC secured 20.15% stake in Kenya Pipeline Company through its initial public offering, a strategic investment that enhances Uganda's security of supply. It improves affordability and accessibility of petroleum products and strengthens long-term supply stability for Uganda and a broader East African region. This was a negotiated activity. We had to make sure that we demand concessions that will save us. We demanded positions on the board of KPC, 2 positions, very many concessions. I think I briefed the masses, and if you want, Chair, we would go ahead and give you more information. But just to let you know that this was the best policy decision that we made, to make Uganda National Oil Company be a key stakeholder in the Kenyan pipeline. Let me now touch on Tilenga Upstream project. Under this project, Total Energies is developing 6 oil fields with approximately 420 wells at an estimated cost of $7 billion, designated to produce approximately 190,000 barrels per day at peak. By March 2025, 224 wells had been drilled, exceeding the 190 wells required for first oil. In order for us to get first oil, we estimated that we will need 170 wells. Total has surpassed that, which is a good thing. Land acquisition stands at approximately 99% completion, and with overall project progress of 70%. Why 99%? It's because in some instances we had a problem of wrangles between families where they have not decided who should get the money, who has the mandate to get the money. So we said, settle yourselves. We will place the money in court. So that is the 1% which is remaining on the land acquisition. Under Kingfisher Upstream project, Total Energies, Sinok Uganda Limited, it is Sinok Uganda Limited, which is developing 4 well pads and 31 wells at an estimated investment of $2.5 billion, with peak production of approximately 40,000 barrels of crude every day. And by March 2025, 22 wells out of 31 wells had been drilled, exceeding the 17 wells which were required in order for us to see first oil. And land acquisition is 100% completed with Kingfisher. And facilities projected progress is at 99%. And with first oil from Kingfisher expected in mid-2026. They were lucky that they got a contractor who was good to contract the central processing facility, unlike Total, where their contractor, McDermott, didn't do a good job. So it made them delay. But Total promised us that they were going to do double shifts. They were going to increase, double the number of workers when we visited, and we hope that they will not delay. Then on the East African crude oil pipeline, significant progress has been registered on this pipeline. The construction license was granted in January 2023, and 100% of the right-of-way from Hoima to Tanga has been secured. And as at March 2025, overall project progress stands at 82%. Then on the refinery, the implementation agreement for the development of the 60,000 barrels per day refinery was signed on 29th March 2025 with Alpha MBM International, LLC, and Kabale, it should be Kabalega Refinery Company Holdings Limited. This has been established with government holding 40% equity. Land acquisition for both refinery and storage terminal has been completed. And the front-end engineering design studies, the Asia and site surveys are currently underway. On Kabalega Industrial Park and the airport, the industrial park continues to advance as a strategic hub for petroleum value addition, manufacturing, logistics, and agro-processing. Zoning has been completed and investor onboarding is ongoing. Cabinet has approved 120 million USD in EKF financing for phase 1 infrastructure for this project. Kabalega International Airport stands at approximately 98% completion, providing critical support for petroleum logistics and regional trade. On national content and workforce development, the petroleum sub-program's commitment to local content has yielded significant results. As at end of December 2025, 16,375 people are directly employed in Uganda's oil and gas sector, with over 90% of positions held by Ugandans, including 5,152 workers from host communities. And this is what we call positive discrimination. On the legislative agenda, the ministry is implementing a legislative agenda of 5 bills across both programs, namely the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Bill, and thank you for the support, which has now been passed by Parliament, while the following are still at different levels and they are due for submission. We hope that we will be able to do this between 2026 and 2027. We've already submitted the lead of government business. So these are the bills: the Building Substance Bill, the Local Content Development Fund Bill, and the Earth Scientists Registration Bill, and then the Atomic Energy Bill. Then briefly on the overview of plans for 2026-2027 and medium term, Chair and members, the strategic objectives that the Sustainable Energy Development Program will contribute to financial year 2026-27 will largely be on continued investment in energy generation, transmission and distribution to support private sector activities by reducing costs of production for manufacturers. The following key interventions by MEMD are critical for the attainment of this strategy. 1, rehabilitate energy generation infrastructure. 2, develop new utility scale energy generation infrastructure. 3, rehabilitate and expand electricity transmission and distribution infrastructure to support agro-industrialization, tourism, power, value addition, and development of industrial parks. And 4, promote modern energy cooking services and technologies. And then 5, improve reliability and reduce the cost of electricity. Regarding Sustainable Mineral Development Sub-Program, the focus is on de-risking the minerals value chain through quantification of mineral resources to develop bankable projects from identified prospects. 2 is strengthening of the mineral laboratory and mineral beneficiation centers across the country. And 3, establishment of mineral markets and organizing artisanal and small-scale miners. Chair and members, if somebody came with money and told you to go and buy gold, you may not know where to go to get the gold. And yet, world over, they know that Uganda has gold. But you come here and look for where to buy gold from, cows can come home without seeing, or you will be sold fake gold. Even my office does. So we really want to establish these markets so that you know where to go and purchase real gold, not fake gold. We will work with the Ministry of Finance because Uganda Revenue Authority is very critical in this. And lastly, we will operationalize the Uganda National Mining Company. This is a critical company. It represents government in doing business. We want it to be like UNOC, Uganda National Oil Company. The petroleum subsector will put emphasis on continued security of supply of petroleum products under the sole bulk importation program being implemented by Uganda National Oil Company. We will also put emphasis on completion of the construction of infrastructure required for attainment of first oil. The third one is to fast track the East African crude oil pipeline, whose development has progressed to close to 80%. Then development of Kabalega Industrial Park. We will focus on capitalization of Uganda National Oil Company to invest in the oil refinery. This refinery is going to be financed through equity, only equity. We will not do the mistake of the East African crude oil pipeline where securing funds was really a hassle, because these projects are dealing in fossil fuel and the world is turning away from fossil fuel. So we decided to build equity as government so that we don't suffer. Lastly, is we will ensure that Ugandans effectively benefit from the opportunities and unlocked by the oil and gas investments. Honorable Chair and members, please note that the Government of Uganda budget ceiling for the Sustainable Energy Development Program is constrained despite the enhancement and will not cover the budget amounts for all the reprioritized outputs under the National Development Plan 4 program. Action plans, that is the PIAPs, including surviving obligations from Rural Electrification Agency. And sir, you mentioned it in your opening remarks. It is true the way REA was being planned for, it had a multi-year budget of 500 billion. But when it was mainstreamed, this budget was lost somewhere. It did not follow REA into my ministry. So, yes. So, every year we keep on, you know. asking. So really, during discussion, we'll be able to throw more light on this. Plus, the challenge of having contractors who did work and were not paid. And there were many, 72 billions were not paid. Then the Auditor General audited. Then we say, okay, you pay what Auditor General has audited. And these are the people with experience with whom you task to do work. You contract them to do work. Plus, there is the World Bank facility, which excited everybody. The 338 million US dollars. We all thought that all the stranded poles were going to be. The rigorous conditionality of World Bank, where they have to officially also give a no objection on the people you have you have appointed to be on the project implementation committee. You have to listen to World Bank. So we are sorry we delayed. This project delayed and disappointed us in our planned, program, which you are aware of. So those were the problems that constrained expanding rural electrification. The ESP required short connection, not long connection. But we hope for the better. We are not lamenting. We are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. We hope that this financial year we will perform better. Then on vote 17, which is the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, the total budget is 2,282 billion, out of which 18,934 is for wage, and then 805 billion is non-wage, and recurrent is 951.6 billion, which is Government of Uganda Development Budget, and 1,125,000,000 is external financing. And then vote 139, which is Petroleum Authority of Uganda, the total budget is 106,868 billion, and out of which 28.07 billion is wage, and 33.31 billion is non-wage, and recurrent is 44.84 billion, which is Government of Uganda Development. Honorable Chair and honorable colleagues, whereas there has been considerable additional resources in a bid to achieve the tenfold growth strategy, the funding gap under GOU budget for financial year 2026-27, especially under vote 17, which is Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, where legacy issues arising from rural electrification, from rare obligations, amongst others, that posed serious implications and risk associated with the budget shortfalls, which really affected implementation. I mentioned 4 of them. One is breach of contractual obligation in the critical areas of rural electrification: electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. It may also result in demobilization of contractors across the country, increasing the risk of vandalism, of non-energized lines, amongst others. Remember, we had double jeopardy. When COVID struck, the lockdown meant that no activity in the field. So what happens to the projects that we were working on? Lockdown means an opportunity for vandals to vandalize. The thieves were not locked down. Then plus, they were not. We really suffered. The other one was a loss of revenue due to delays in attainment of fast oil and value addition for extractives. You remember we ring-fenced money we expect from oil for infrastructure. And amongst the infrastructure is the energy infrastructure, transmission and all that. So the longer we take in getting oil, the more problems we get in actualizing our plans in constructing infrastructure in this sector. The other one is externally financing projects, the loans, that will not be executed as planned since the ministry and agencies are not able to meet terms and conditions of these loans, such as land acquisition, way leaves, environmental and social requirements, which are supposed to be funded by government of Uganda. Chair, I remember you supported me on the re-establishment of the energy fund. We fought. When this fund is established and funds are put in it, some of these things can be dealt with. I want to use this opportunity and inform you that the fund was finally established, but there are no funds in the fund. And this is a question for the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, because we proposed the sources where funds for the fund will come from. But the fund is empty with no funds. Let me also say that the inability to take on new obligations, we are anticipating this, especially under preparatory activities for power generation projects and grid access. This will have implications on the implementation of the processed National Development Plan 4. Since the last commissioning of the 600 megawatt Karuma, we need another big hydropower plant, 840 megawatts, Ayago. Those projects are there. You know, power from Karuma is cheaper because we had money that we added, about 15%. So if we don't have that money to co-invest and rely purely on a contractor, private, then power will remain expensive, because this contributes 60% on the tariff. Whatever you put in the generation development, it will contribute 60%. Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to, with your permission, I would like to call upon my permanent secretary to now present the program responses to the issues raised by you, honorable colleagues, and we will see how far we can go, but this is to assure you that we are really ready and open to share as much as possible to this committee, because you are the ones who support us. You are our frontliners. So we come with open, really open mind and total commitment and cooperation. Thank you for your kind attention, and I beg to submit. Let me now, through you, Chair, request the PS to also submit.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable, the Minister's presentation is still ongoing. Would you like to? On our procedure. Honorable, you have already made the submission in the process. Yeah. Okay, Honorable Angura.
just
Okay, Angura, hold on a bit. There's a procedural matter from...
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, before me I hold the Shadow Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Honorable Ivan Kanyike, report, who is unable to attend this meeting. I would want to know how you plan to proceed, considering the fact that the shadow ministers were asked to present their reports before us in the committees. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I thank you, Honorable Patrick Oshabe and Samba. This is a matter that came up also yesterday. You know, as chair of a committee, I process business that has been provided to the committee. Unfortunately, without any prejudice, this does not come to my secretariat in time, so I program with what I have. So this is what happened yesterday, and this is what happened today. But in a spirit of good governance and democratic principles, I will definitely allow that the committee will receive the alternative policy statement from you, but I would think that I would be constrained to allow it in the middle of the minister's presentation, because whatever the PS is going to do is a continuation of placing some figures into the narrative that the minister has given us. When that is done, whilst before the members have responded, we will request you to then submit, present the alternative, and then we'll debate everything in wholesome. So the agenda will stand amended as guided. Honorable Angura, do you still have something?
Thank you very much, Chair, for that guidance. That has actually been the precedence, that once the main policy statement is presented by the minister, then we can also look at the alternative. So maybe that will come. However, Chair, I just wanted to charge the minister a little on the current ongoing situation.
Asked you about what charger
The
you want
EV.
to use.
I said the EV.
You want to use the EV.
They are only 17, but if you can spread
I
them.
hope you are very sure about the plug-in sockets.
She will respond. Chair, about the ongoing oil situation, and also aware that the world is watching our preparations in order to cover up and cushion in the circumstance that things continue not favoring us and moving on well. I just have a concern as far as the timelines of 31st July and October is concerned. Chair, you will recall that when we visited in December, we were actually told of Total being behind schedule. But the other side, the CNOC side, moving on well. In the event that Total, despite committing to add additional workforce, in the event that Total is not ready by that time and CNOC is ready, can we have CNOC pump? Because I would just expect at the main pump station, they block the line from Total, and then this one switches on. Is that possible? That is what I want to find out from you, such that we get the country alive to the timelines and the high expectations now. Chair, the minister has actually cut us off in many of the critical issues you've raised. She has raised an alarm quickly, and like we withdrew us from reacting on the many issues that you've raised by coming out really to cry and cry out loudly. However, on the issue of REA, you did not, I thought you would make a direct response to Chair. But there's also one thing we are coming out of politics now, Chair. We now have expectations of political visibility as far as the sectors are concerned. What is that is visible? There is this thing called the ECP. The ECP, you remember? Even where poles are standing and there are no electrons flowing, people got interested and excited and did the wiring and moved on. That ECP. UEDCL, now as we speak, does not know anything to do with ECP. So those are the visible things that now we need you as we sit here with this team. Let's look at the politically visible direction that can be touched and felt. So I thought I should just bring that charger, such that you allow fears, because people want to feel what is visible. Just on that oil, whether we can switch on Sinok alone by teeing off what will be ready, and rare specifically what she has requested. Can we start a conversation of going back to where we were? Thank you.
I thank you. I would like to request you colleagues. I know it's very difficult to keep quiet once the systems have switched on to a submission, but I want to request you that we allow the Honorable Minister to conclude on her submission, because currently what the Minister has presented is a policy paper, but that must be tied in with a few proposals of numbers and undertakings. Once that is done, then we will respond. Otherwise, the Minister will respond to this bit. She will ask her technical team to give us the numberings and so on. Then we would want again to comment on it, and then we will take longer. But you see, because you are very senior colleagues, I find it very difficult to Honorable Patrick Nsamba, under what rule?
Chair, I didn't come with the rules book here.
Because you say,
but
unfortunately,
I'll beg on your indulgence, Chair, just on where you are.
Okay, thank you.
You know, the Minister tackled key matters that concern us this side, which are very critical. We would debate them, then we agree after that, because like we're talking about rare, we're talking about mineral markets, we're talking about some of those issues. Then when we are done with that, then we enter into the figures and the proposals for the next financial year, if Chair you may allow. The Minister responds to us on that briefly, then we enter into the technical figures and the rest.
I would like to request the Honorable Agasha Bashisha Juliet of Mitoma. I want you to read for me this part of that document. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. To read the ministerial policy statement and draft budget estimates, financial year 2026-2027.
What she said is ministerial policy statement, budget estimates, financial year 2026-2027. It goes without mention. We have had a policy statement by the Minister. The Minister, in her submission, wishes to place proposed figures and explanations to the statement that she has made. Then the committee responds holistically to what the Minister has stated here. Unfortunately for us, we had hoped that circumstances allowing and climate change issues remaining a little bit constant and mitigated, that we would have had this conversation in a longer engagement, like a workshop or something, which has not happened because of what I have just stated. So what that means is that we must find the most efficient mechanism to conclude the aspect of the ministerial policy statement and budget estimates so that we are within time. I wish to hasten to say that if we take the approach that we are going into, we will not finish. I therefore wish to request very kindly that we allow the permanent secretary, who is actually delivering part of the statement of the minister, to complete that bit. Then we go into the detailed crux of the matter. Colleagues, I implore you to allow that we move the way I propose. I thank you. Thank you.
Honorable Angura is looking at me with chair, and he said he charged me, so I'm charged. And I would like to say that we are disaster prepared. The companies which are developing our petroleum resources work together, to the extent that when Total was disappointed by McDonald, they approached CNOOC to use Sinopec, the company that constructed the central processing facility at Kingfisher, to hasten the construction of CPF in Tirenga. So I want to believe that once the crude oil pipeline is completed, a 1,443 kilometer stretch, you can't fill it in one day. It takes time to fill the pipeline with the crude oil. They will be able to adjust and make sure that we don't lose, because all of them are interested in getting money from this crude oil. They are interested in transporting this crude because there is a transport cost, $12.77 US per barrel. So, Honorable Angura, I want to base on that and assure you that this business is done by people who are experienced and they want to get their money quickly. Yes. And then on us being politically viable, you know that I was where you are. As a former government chief whip, I know what it means being on the ground with visible projects. We will see to it that we complete the incompleted projects because Cabinet has already directed us, and I just pray that the releases come on time so that we are able to be visible on the ground. Yes. PS, please.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister. So we will request members to turn to the document we have provided that reads response to policy and budgetary issues. And I will request that we go straight to page, issue number 2 on the budget projections, which is your page 2, main 2. Yes, we have skipped the earlier part. The Honorable Minister already highlighted the constraints in the earlier sections. Now, just to cover the budget as provided in the ministerial policy statement, we want to start by thanking the committee at the budget framework paper stage for supporting us with additional resources, and these have materialized in an additional 646.31 billion Ugandan shillings. So when we came in at budget framework paper, you will note that under GOU sustainable energy, we had about 374.34 billion Ugandan shillings, that is GOU funding. And today, in the ministerial policy statement, as provided by the minister, we now have this increased to 941.64 billion Ugandan shillings. Just to clarify, for the Sustainable Energy Development Program, this additional financing has gone to support electrification of growth centers majorly. So we will be covering the remaining budgets for Kabalega substation. We've provided a 71 billion Ugandan shillings. We have provided financing for phase 2 electrification of industrial parks. This project had stalled due to lack of the government counter fund. So now we do have an allocation to a tune of 200 billion about in the budget. We also received an additional funding for rural electrification and the connectivity project to a tune of 45 billion Ugandan shillings, bringing our rural electrification budget to 161 billion Ugandan shillings, like we are going to demonstrate shortly. And then there were other projects, what we call high-level projects, where we are supporting a number of industries like Day Farmer, Devkey, iron ore, value addition, wood cross or Rome to support them electrify their mining site, but also resettlement action projects for the transmission lines, Masakamba Dada, but also Karuma Tororo transmission line. So under the Sustainable Energy Development Program, the key point is please note the additional support that we've received, and that budget has grown to 941.64 billion. Under the Sustainable Extractives Industry Development Program, same table, you will note that when we came in at the budget framework paper, we had about 223.27 billion Ugandan shillings. Again, with your support, this budget has been increased to 333.55 billion Ugandan shillings, and this is largely driven by the capitalization for the Ugandan National Mining Company, where we have received an additional 65 billion Ugandan shillings to support the company takeoff. And recall the minister highlighted the need to quantify our mineral resources. So under our project that does this, under geological surveys, we received an additional 15.1 billion Ugandan shillings. So the change from the budget framework paper to the ministerial policy statement. Now, when we go to table 2, it's largely a breakdown of how the resources have been distributed across the program. This we request that you note. So all the program participants, we have distributed fairly to the extent the resources allow. Equally on page 4, similar, that's for the Sustainable Extractives Industry Program. And equally, we have been as fair as we can be given the limited resources, with the bulk of that going to Petroleum Authority and, of course, the Ministry of Energy. Moving on to table 3, 4, and 5, we largely break down then these allocations, but also highlight the budget performance, which we request you to note. I want to focus on page 6 to address the concerns of Chair, but also complement what the Honourable Minister highlighted. When we came in with the current budget for this financial year under rural electrification, the department was supported with about 35 billion in the budget and an additional 45 billion under domestic arrears. So when you look at that table on page 6, you will note that these domestic arrears have not yet materialized. And that's why we continue to grapple with contractors unpaid. So we didn't receive any domestic arrears throughout the year, but we are hopeful that as we start quarter 4, that we shall receive the bulk of this money and we shall go on to settle a number of contractors. So that explains again the challenge that we are facing under rural electrification. Moving on to page 7, the response to some specific issues still. You wanted us to come out with a detailed budget allocation. We shall focus on the key ones. The table 7 largely is a summary, but the focus is in table 8. You will note that aligning with the Minister's remarks, in the next financial year's budget, we are keen as much as possible to support generation, whether rehabilitation or new power projects. So we have locked in some financing under generation with a small amount under external. That you're seeing under external is largely the EU funding for rehabilitation of Kira Naluvale that we've locked in, yes. So later on, I'm shortly going to walk through your issue on the generation plants, and we will highlight the specifics that have gone to Ayago, Kiba, and how we are progressing Oriang. Now, I want us to focus on distribution, and you will see why the Rural Electrification Department has been struggling. In this financial year running, this department had about 35 billion actual funding besides domestic arrears. At least for the next financial year, we have seen a slight improvement. This Department of Rural Electrification under distribution has been now allocated a total of 161.15 billion Ugandan shillings. So with 35 billion that we were running with this financial year, there's not much this department would have done amidst all the requirements that we had. So this is an improvement, and we are hoping we can go back to the original figures to maybe 200 billion as we advance into consequent financial years. It is important to highlight that the bulk of this is under the Rural Connectivity Project, so it's government of Uganda. So it gives them a bit of legroom, but it's important to also note that a big bulk of that is going to high-level interventions, DevKey, Day Farmer, etc. That's also key. That is key. No, and some will go to you. Growth centers. The strategy of government. You're there in the growth centers.
You are the ones who get the jobs from these industries.
Yes. Yes, but to comfort Honorable Samba, under distribution and external financing, we have a 462 billion under the Electricity Access Scale-Up project. So in the coming financial year, we will advance the different interventions under Scale-Up that touch the normal person, Omuntu wa wansi, just to comfort Honorable Nsamba. But the GOU funding is what gives us mileage, quick implementation, quick interventions, given what the Honorable Minister highlighted, the constraints of approvals and the development financing. So we do appreciate the support to increase the department's budget under rural. Under transmission, we then highlight the different allocations under the transmission projects. The bulk of these are being leveraged against external financing, just to highlight that. Then we go into clean cooking. We have some little funding there, and minerals, petroleum, and then land acquisition to support the ministry projects. So the rest we shall leave with the committee for further internalization. Chair, moving on to table 9, you were very specific on us providing details, but we want to highlight in general terms, and we'll leave the detail to the committee, that in next year's budget, aspects of energy security have been prioritized in terms of advancing the Kiba hydropower project feasibility studies. So in the budget, we have about 14 billion to support that, especially because, like the Honorable Minister highlighted, we want this to be government-led so that we are able to obtain concessional financing and manage issues of affordability and the tariffs. So that's why we are driving it, and then we should be able to advance it through concessional financing, about 400 megawatts. Then for Oriang, this particular one, we have entered a joint development agreement with Sinohydro, who developed Karuma. They are in a partnership with ROCO, so they will advance most of the investment, but in the budget, we've allocated about 1.65 billion Ugandan shillings to support the companies. There's a lot that we are going to do to support them in the feasibility studies, but also aspects of engagements as we prepare for that project too. The other one that we've been supported on is Ayago, where we have locked in about 800 million Ugandan shillings, and this particular one might not be directly in the ministry's ministerial policy statement because it is provided for under the Project Preparation Fund under NPA. So you will find it in the NPA budget, but we've been supported on Ayago to advance the feasibility studies for Ayago. At this point, allow me, I'll be calling upon a number of commissioners. I'll start with the representative of the Commissioner Nuclear to summarily highlight the issues under nuclear Buyende on page 10. Summarize those, Wamala, please.
Colleagues, can we assist him access a microphone? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Beyond the nuclear power project is 8,400 megawatt electric nuclear power plant planned in the Buyende district, Buyanja sub-county. And our plan is to have 6 units, and each unit is about 1,400 megawatts. But because of the financial requirement for this project, we intend to develop this project in a phased manner. We expect that the first unit of this project will be online by 2031. We are planning to use the Korean technology, APR 1400. So we are working on this project with a Korean company called Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Company. This company is one of the biggest nuclear utilities in the world. It is operating over 26,000 megawatts of nuclear capacity. South Korea. Thank you. It is one of the biggest utilities in Korea, operating over 26,000 megawatts of nuclear capacity. And on site preparation, Chair, we are conducting geotechnical investigation of Buyende nuclear power plant site, and we intend to drill a number of holes in Buyende nuclear power site to understand the base rock where the nuclear power plant will sit. We are also planning to install a number of monitoring stations on the site. We shall install a meteorological tower of about 60 meters high, and this is basically to acquire meteorological data and climate data which will be used in the design of the nuclear power plant, but also monitoring the environment of Buyende during the operation of this nuclear power plant. As part of site preparation, Chair, we also intend to install seismic monitoring stations at the site. This is basically to acquire microseismic data because nuclear power plants, when they are operating, because of safety, we want to be sure that in case of earthquakes, the power plant can shut down immediately for the safety of the plant and the safety of the operators of the power plant. So we intend to have about 7 seismic monitoring stations on the site. In addition, we intend also to install ground monitoring stations. This is basically to monitor the water levels within the site, because we would want to be very sure that as water gets out of the site or comes to the site, we are sure that it's not contaminated. So we shall have this ground monitoring network conducting monitoring of the water resources within the site. Chair, the other issue was to do on the capacity development for the project. I would like to share with the members of the committee that this power plant will require about 8,400 personnel to operate the power plant. But during construction, you need thousands and thousands of people on site. Now, for us to build this capacity, we have a human resource development strategy, where we are training key personnel abroad. We have Ugandans who are working with the Ministry of Energy and Development and also Atomic Energy Council, being trained in South Korea, in France and China on nuclear engineering and other aspects of the nuclear power project. But this being unsustainable, the Ministry of Energy and Development is looking at establishing a Center for Nuclear Science and Technology at Soroti University in collaboration with Soroti University. And a lot of work has been done in terms of feasibility study for this center. Soroti University also offered over 45 acres of land for this center, and the designs for the center are almost complete. So we believe that when this center is constructed, it will support the human resource development for the project. On the aspects of safety for the project and safety framework, Chair, Uganda is a member of the International Atomic Energy Agency. So as a member of the International Atomic Energy Agency, we work towards implementing the safety requirements of the International Atomic Energy Agency. And most of the activities we are implementing at Vienna nuclear power plant site are in line with the IEA requirements, and we are following strictly the IEA standards. We are also in the process of amending the Atomic Energy Act 2008 so that we can strengthen and align our national requirements with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and also provide for strengthening Atomic Energy Council as a national regulator for nuclear activities in the country. Chair, on aspects of RAP status, yes, we are also in the process of acquiring land for this project in Viende, and the project will require about 3,000 hectares of land, but most of this land will be basically for the emergency zones, demarcation of the emergency zones around the nuclear power plant. And the RAP study for the project is about 97%. We hope that RAP study will be completed by 30th April 2026, and then we shall go into RAP implementation for the project. We have so far identified 7,898 project affected persons, and the draft valuation report has been submitted to the Chief Government Valuer as being validated. Chair, through Honorable Minister, I would like to submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Wamala.
PS. It is very critical. It tells us the cost of the project, because that's what and how much was appropriated on it. What is the cost of the project? How many years will it be completed? And how much has been appropriated this financial year?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable. The project, as I've said, is a bigger project, so we are looking at phasing it. So the first phase, where we intend to have 2 units of this project constructed, we are looking at about $9 billion for the 2 units. That's about 2,800 megawatts for the first phase. Then the next phase will come after 2032 of the project. Now, in line with the budget, which we are discussing, the budget that has been allocated to this project is basically for preparatory activities, RAP implementation, land acquisition, and the studies I've already mentioned. And we have about 62 billion in the ministerial policy statement for us to do the preparatory activities for we and the nuclear power project. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma Wamala. We will now proceed to the issues around geothermal. You required us to provide details on the geothermal development at Kibiro, Panyimur, and 27 identified sites. Sticking to the script, I will invite Mr. Vincent Kato, the Commissioner Geothermal, to summarize that without deviating for long. Page 13 at the top.
Thank you, Chair. Through my Honorable Minister, geothermal development We have about 27 sites, but we prioritized the 4 for the beginning, that is Panyamuru in Pakwachi, Kibiro in Hoima, Bulanga in Bundibujo, and Katwe in Kasese. So we carried out detailed surface studies which indicated some good anomaly. And among the 4, again, we prioritized 2 because we could not develop them at once. So we carried out temperature gradient drilling. This is to determine how the temperature varies with depths. And we drilled 8 temperature gradient wells in Kibiro Hoima, and the results were very impressive because the temperature gradient varied from 80 to 170 degrees per kilometer. The normal temperature gradient is 30 per kilometer, but if you look at this one, it is 80 to 170, which is an anomalous. And the same also we drilled 10 temperature gradient wells in Panyamuru, in Pakwachi, and the temperature gradient was between 70 and 170. Again, this is on the global scale, it is anomalous. So after drilling these wells, we are now going to do what is called deep drilling into the reservoir itself. So most of the work in the budget has been to prepare ourselves for drilling 4 deep exploration wells up to 2 kilometers in Panyamuru and 2 kilometers in Kibiro. So the work now we are planning for is to plan for these deep exploration wells, and it involves the environmental impact studies, the RAP, and also training the human capital who are going to do drilling supervision and site management. So as I talk, we are planning to drill the wells 4 in Panyamuru, the deep up to 2 kilometers, and the 4 in Kibiro. So once the reservoir has been identified and characterized, then we can go for production and the generation of electricity from these geothermal resources. So as we develop these 2 to advanced stages, we are also spreading, like we are doing advanced work in Okidi, that is Amuru district, Kalungu in Rwanda, Ihimbo in Rukungiri, Kabuga in Kasese, and Chafula in Ntungamu. We have been on the ground doing detailed work in preparation also for drilling the deep exploration wells. But our concentration now is on the 2, that is Panyamuru in Kibiro and Panyamuru in Pakwachi district and Kibiro in Hoima district. So all of the work which we are planning for the next financial year is preparation, that is planning these wells, designing them and siting them, carrying out environmental impact assessment and land acquisition so that we drill in the other financial year. And the budget which has been allocated,
it is 2.8 2.8 billion Ugandan shillings.
I submit through my Honorable Minister.
Okay, thank you. So, Honorable Chair, we will proceed to issue 3.2, where you wanted us to update on a number of transmission lines, status and substations. Honorable Chair, later on we'll have a specific session with UETCL. Do we take it or we wait for that session and we handle it with UETCL? Because you know you had bundled us up, yes. So we will move it to the UETCL presentation. Thank you. So that then will take us to aspects, we'll run through to page 18, where you required us to provide a reconciliation of ESP connection targets by region. And I want to invite Engineer Abdon Atwine to quickly take that part of the presentation.
Thank you, PS, through the Minister. I wanted to start on visibility of rural electrification. You have 2 aspects, 1, grid extension, and 2 is connections, what we call last mile connections. Let me start with connections. Connections, we do them through UEDCR, and we have two approaches. One is where government provides materials to UEDCR, and two is where we allow UEDCR to procure their own materials, and then through development partners we reimburse UEDCR. So under scale up, UEDCR is supposed to connect 900,000 new customers, and 500,000 they are supposed to connect, and then they are reimbursed, and 400 we are supposed to give them materials. So in terms of the regional balance, table 12 shows the figures like Central Region, and those figures are for planning purposes. Central Region, 497,000, Eastern Region, 216,000, Northern Region, 140,000, Western Region, 219,000. These figures are for planning purposes, and the actual connections are determined by those people who are able to apply, because when you apply, we don't leave you, it is first come, first serve. So in terms of connections, we are coming to table 13. These were the connections since UEDCR took over in April 2025. We gave the meters 140,000. The connections jumped like in July to 30,557. In August the same, 46,844. In September, the materials we gave them started dwindling, and as we speak, the 140,000 meters were all used. Now connecting based on result-based financing, where they connect, we reimburse. And that's the number of 500,000. That's the target. So far, they have connected up to February. They presented for 46,617, but they have added March, which brings the total to 54,936. That's under ESP. They have been slowed down because they procured 6 contractors which are local, and the supply chain has been an issue. But we are working on that, and they are promising that as we get into May, the connections on that line will jump up. So in total, since April 2025 to the end of March 2026, they have connected 238,099 in number, and their target was 300, so they have a small shortfall. The other item was on, I think I have answered the other part, which is on page 19, but I wanted also to look at visibility in terms of extensions. The one thing that we have to be visible is quick fix, where we use GOU counterpart, which was hard to come by, but we have had very good discussion engagements with the Ministry of Finance, leveraging on your support, and I think the future looks bright when you see the jump that we have had. The other one is to attract external financing. As I speak, last week, we finished negotiations for a project, $136 million with African Development Bank, so that it can support us. And we have another key project, grid expansion, to support parish development, which is supposed to connect all parishes, not all sub-county headquarters that have not been connected countrywide, and support parish development. So this project is in 4 components, Northern Uganda, Eastern, Central, and the Western. Because it is a big project, we could not make it one project. We can't get one financier. We have progressed well with Northern Uganda Islamic Development Bank booking it, and we have programmed the financing for this in the financial year 2027-2028. Central Uganda and Western Uganda, the same, but with different development partners. It is Eastern Uganda where we are looking for development partners. So I think we are on course. The starting was not easy because of financing, but I think we are getting there. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Abdon. The next item is on the status of industrial parks, still on page 19. This we've highlighted with a budget allocation of 201 billion, we'll be able to meet our counterpart funding, and therefore that project that is meant to electrify Sukulu, Mbale Industrial Park, Woblands Industrial Park, Kapeka, and Nakasongola Kaweweta Industrial Parks will take off in the coming financial year, now that we've been supported with the counterpart funding. Of course, there is some additional funding we are discussing with finance, whereas the counterpart has been covered. We have a component of some land acquisition for where the substations will be, and a few transmission lines, and of course monitoring costs for the project implementation units. So that we've highlighted later in the funding priorities and funded that we are going to highlight briefly. Allow me, Chairman, to invite Dr. Brian Issa Bidye, the Commissioner, Energy Resources Department, to take us through everything clean cooking, ethanol blending, and e-mobility summarily, all through to page 23. Dr. Brian.
Thank you very much, Madam Pierce, through the Honorable Minister, Honorable Chair and members of this committee. Referring to page 19, I would like to speak about our initiatives on decarbonizing our kitchens, but also the means of transport. Specifically, I wanted to start by informing this Honorable Committee that we developed a national integrated clean cooking strategy, which has segmented our consumers and users into specific technologies and fuels that are fit for each of consumers. On page 20, we break down the 635 clean cooking technologies, noting that the majority of these technologies were LPG, supported by the government program. So 87% of all those were LPG toolkits that we provided. But we also have a big dominance from electric cooking, which has been another area of our intervention. We have bioethanol, which is another growing area of intervention. And for correction on that page, the 0.5 is from biogas as an option. The other big number of 2.2% was for improved cookstoves, particularly for rural institutions, but also households that don't have access to electricity or the other options that we have been promoting. We have done the same for schools, with a number of schools supported for adoption of clean cooking options, noting that the biggest chunk of our biomass goes into institutional energy generation. So we had about 10 of these institutions supported with LPG, and a big chunk supported with e-cooking, with cookstoves fitted to use the electricity that we are distributing. We also had the rest of options provided for institutions whose ability to cook would then be biomass-led. We have been promoting, along with the regulator and other players, specific or affirmative clean cooking tariffs, with institutions cooking at about 412 Ugandan shillings per kilowatt hour, but also households benefiting from this as a form of transition to cleaner forms of cooking. We've developed a behavioral change campaign, because we realized that behavioral change is one of the key interventions that would help to transform our cooking in the country. So within this behavioral change campaign that is still ongoing, we identified champions. And amongst the champions, particularly to lead on aspects of culture, are the cultural institutions. So we've engaged kingdoms and the people that lead in these cultural aspects to help us as champions in clean cooking. And indeed, our campaigns have taken us to engage with kingdoms in Bururi, Buganda, Busoga, and other kingdoms where cooking can be driven forward by changing their cultural aspects or orientation towards cooking. So that campaign is on, and we have also engaged religious institutions to help us with this kind of change that we desire to ensure that we move the needle on cooking. In terms of funding gap, we have requested or budgeted for 5 billion. As counterpart financing, we have a grant coming from the FDB, which requires that government meets our counterpart part of the funding, which is about 5 billion shillings, to cover mostly aspects to do with the PIU. But we also have 50 billion as counterpart financing that is going to be needed, particularly to support the distribution infrastructure for LPG across the country. In terms of capacity building, we have established, with support from the International Solar Alliance, a STACI training center, whose main aim is building capacity for artisans, but also at a higher level, the policy makers, to ensure that we have capacity for planning for solar across the country. But these centers will also be critical in building capacity for testing and certification, which is a critical requirement, particularly for amongst our innovators in the country. So most of the SMEs across the country will now benefit from these capacity objectives. But equally important is that these centers will also support us in our research and innovation, which is another area where we are not doing very well in the country. So that has been supported, and the launch will happen in May. We have a global convention here from the International Solar Alliance that then will lead to the launch of these institutions, and they will start being functional before the end of this financial year. We're also having initiatives that are geared at growing the whole set of renewable energy beyond just solar. So we have a renewable energy training center that is established at Nakawa, which we are supporting. Again, the initiative is to build capacity across the country. In terms of blending, which is another critical intervention that we are reporting on commencement for the first time here, we are in biofuels blending. So we started with a 1% blending, and we will grow or graduate into 5% ratios. This country established the legal framework for us to blend our fuels, petrol and diesel, but soon we shall also graduate to the aviation fuel. So currently we have licensed 13 producers, but we also have 4 blenders that cover Mutukula, Mahathi, and Maraba and Busia. So the intention of the program is to ensure that we decarbonize our transport facilities. Currently, those that have been licensed to produce can produce up to about 131 million liters of ethanol per year, but the current production is about 15 million liters, because the rest of those that we've licensed are still retrofitting their facilities. So as we graduate from 1 to 5 and eventually to 10 and up to the 20 maximum blending ratios, we expect that these players will be able to come on board and ensure that they are meeting the 131 target that we have. It's important for me to emphasize that beyond blending diesel and petrol, we have started initiatives on sustainable aviation fuel, which again is a critical intervention, particularly around the airline transport. It's now a requirement that planes flying into particular bases must carry a particular volume of aviation fuel. So our initiatives now have started looking at ways in which we can fast track our initiatives to ensure that we are supporting the airlines to ensure that they have enough sustainable aviation fuel in Uganda, and the strategy has been laid at that. In terms of e-mobility, honorable members of this committee, I'm glad to note that you've already noted that we've advanced with about 17 EV stations across the country. Those are to support the vehicles, but we're also supporting the 3- and 2-wheelers with about 322 battery swapping stations across the country. And within the next planning period, we are thinking that we need to raise awareness such that all masses appreciate the importance of us moving into mobility, but also we are going to continue supporting the sector by establishing or installing 2 additional public fast charging stations, which are planned for Nakasongola and Jinja going forward. Lastly, Madam Honorable Minister and the Chair of this committee, allow me to emphasize the importance of a baseline framework for us. First, to report on the obligations under the Paris Agreement on climate change, where we need or we are required to establish an MRV monitoring, reporting and verification system, which is a baseline for our countries to ensure that there is transparency in reporting on our emissions commitments under that framework. But 2, and very important, all the aspects that I have mentioned are candidates for benefiting from the carbon markets, and that requires a good MRV. So the ministry is investing resources to ensure that we have established a function and fit for purpose MRV system that then will help us to report as part of the Paris framework, but also to help us to benefit from the carbon markets going forward. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Isabile. Honorable Chair, during the Minister's presentation, she emphasized aspects of quantification of mineral resources, and indeed the committee raised a comment or an inquiry on resource verification and techno-economic studies for critical minerals. The ministry has an entire project implementing this, and allow me invite the Commissioner in charge of Geological Surveys, Dr. Fred Tugume, to summarize what we have programmed under SUMIP, but also support from PANAF Geo, working with the EU and GIZ. Dr. Tugume, please. You might need a microphone.
Colleagues, let's put some space and support him. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Chair and honorable members, through my PS and honorable minister, my task here is really brief, is to give you an update on the Support Uganda Mineral Industrialization project, which is currently ongoing. Anyways, I just want to bring it to your attention that project and the work of the Geological Survey Department generally speaks on data collection. And this has been a challenge in the past, that data hasn't been recognized as an asset. So retiring it and having it a project to just collect data was seen as not a good way to allocate money to such a thing. But now that data is an asset and it's well managed, we are going to have something bigger on it. You recall, members here, that we've been telling you about airborne geophysical surveys. The first which were done by World Bank about 20 years ago, and the recently concluded one in the Karamoja area, covering the whole 100%. But the technologies used in those 2 surveys, one was a little bit, the one which we concluded had an additional element, because we are looking at the gravity, looking at the gravimetric side of it, and magnetic, looking at magnetic materials, and of course geometric. But the old set, which is quite a little bit expensive. Members, from this preliminary data, from this airborne geophysical data we collected, there have been targets that were identified, and these targets actually are the ones that we need to make. We are following up and assume to do ground, geological, geophysical, geochemical. We shall also include pitting and trenching, and then drilling, so that we come up with bankable projects, which is an activity that was not actually done by the Geological Survey, was not carried out by government at that time. But now we want to go on to those areas, and we do the actual quantification so that we get bankable projects. So what are these areas? What are we looking for at the moment? We are looking at rare elements, lithium, nickel, manganese, cobalt, and identified from previous projects, and also my colleague who has talked about the nuclear power plant, the uranium as the source of energy. So we are looking at that aspect as well to do exploration and to quantify the resources, mineral resources. The detailed work which has been done, which is also going on ground. Remember, we started with airborne. Now we are going about to ground, which is actually the food forager. The other one was Air Force. This is the food forager. This is the infantry. We are looking at the uranium exploration, which is being done in the Sembabule and West districts. And I think members, one of the members who are MPs who are there, they can ascertain that the works have been going on. We have looked at exploration of battery minerals, this including nickel in Iganga and Bombo in Royal District. We're looking at manganese in Chenjojo. Our staff of the ministry have been there on the ground doing groundwork. We have looked at lithium in Ntungamo. And of course, we are going to look at in detail about rare earth elements in Bukusu in eastern Uganda. In this one, we are going to partner up with the PANAF-GEO. EU will be looking at this endeavor to see that we come bring these prospects to actual to level of exploitation. And also, we have been looking at iron ore in Kabare and Mugabuzi in the Kazo district. Generally speaking, the project also is going to cover the remaining 60% of Uganda in terms of regional geochemical surveys. Previously, the geochemical is only covered 35%. And for starters, some of the geochemical surveys that were done in 1973 are the ones that led to gold discovery in eastern Uganda. We are going to look at the construction of the repository where we shall be keeping our samples, because we have seen that when we keep drilling and bring these samples together, the routine work becomes easier, especially when someone wants to make a reference to these samples of the areas that have been explored before. Honorable members, I want to let you know that the budget allocation for this project is financial in this MPS that we are discussing is 21.02 billion. I submit.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tugume. Chair and members, allow us continue with everything mining. I'll invite Madame Agnes Alaba to take us through the work we are doing with the formalization of artisanal and small-scale miners, and I see the alternative MPS has a lot on that. So, Honorable Nsamba, we might address many of his issues, and then we proceed to petroleum. Madame Alaba.
Thank you so much, PS Chair, through my PS and the Minister. I'm going to give a brief summary on what we are doing with artisanal formalization, issues of value addition, issues of weighbridge installations, and revenue growth as requested by the committee. In the areas of artisanal and small-scale formalization, Honorable Chair, we have put in a biometric registration system for artisanal and small-scale miners, which will facilitate the formalization of these miners. To date, we have 7,668 miners that we have registered across the country. Of this, we have 2,175. We continue to sensitize the artisanal on a number of ways of operations in terms of health and safety and the need for formalization. And we have a regulation in place, the Mining and the Minerals Artisanal Regulation 2025, that has allowed us to gazette a number of areas for the artisanal miner. About 39 areas has been gazetted to regulate the operation of the artisanal miners so that we can control the environmental impact and also ensure that the artisanal miners have space to operate. We have already granted 2 artisanal mining licenses in Abim, to a group called the Kakoka Artisanal Mining Association, and we also have granted artisanal miners license in Mubende. The MUMA group as the license. We have 3 applications that we are processing. Which was being concluded, it's approved for granting, and the necessary payments are being weighted, and the issues of surface right. We also need to confirm that the artisanals have access to land. So those are some of the issues that are still pending. In terms of the ICGLR certification, that's International Conference of Great Lakes Region, we launched the ICGLR certificates for export of designated minerals. Those are the 3 T's: tin, tungsten, tantalite, and gold, in November 2023. So far, this is being implemented in line with the government policy on value addition, and we have piloted with the tin, having launched the tin smelter in Barara, and so far we have issued 17 ICGLR certificates to Woodcross and the H5 resources that are mining and producing tin. Woodcross is operating in Isinjiro with a mining license. H5 Resources is in Tungamo. It mines and sends the tin to Mbarara for processing, and a total of about 199 tons of refined tin to a level of 99.85 has been exported. In terms of value addition, of course, I've already talked about the smelting, the tin smelting. The sector is progressing. There are a number of interests in value addition. We have licensed the smelter in Ruti, Mbarara, where we are having the processing of tin. For the gold refineries, we have Wagagai Mining Uganda Company Limited that has an integrated facility from mining to refining. We license Wagagai, and Wagagai has established a state-of-art gold refinery, which is producing gold up to 99.99% pure gold, and the plant is supposed to produce 5,000 tons of gold ore per day, and refined gold of 1.2 tons per annum. So far, we have, since the launch, the gold refinery has produced 1.4 tons. The target was 1.2. The 1.4 is because there was a stockpile that was mined. The ministry has, in addition, licensed 4 additional refineries in accordance with the provision of the Mining and the Minerals Act, and we are processing 8 more applications which are under consideration for the refining license to refine gold specifically. In terms of the steel industry, we have 4 companies that are currently adding value to the Uganda raw iron ore, and 2 of it has integrated direct reduced iron plant, that is Tembo and Abyssinia in Jinja. And all these are locally, utilizing locally the resources, and this steel is also being utilized locally. The companies include Tembo, Abyssinia, and we have others like Steel and Tube in Kampala, which are producing steel in the country. Additionally, we have Devik Steel Mills Limited, which was granted exploration licenses in Muku, Rubanda district, and is currently undertaking construction of a steel plant in Tororo, going to utilize the iron ore from Mukurubanda, and they have progressed with their exploration activity. They are doing drilling now, and the steel plant is ongoing in Tororo district, where it was launched last year. We have the beneficiation centers. The ministry has completed construction of beneficiation centers in Tungamo and Kabarole. These beneficiation centers has two functionality. There is the regulators function and bringing the services closer to the citizen and training the artisanal miners. We have equipment for training that the ministry is procuring, but there's the other commercial parts that the Uganda National Mining Company is taking up to put up the production plants in Tungamo Mineral Beneficiation Center. The equipment that the ministry is acquiring is for training purpose of the artisanal miners. So far, on the ministry side, we completed the construction of these two centers, and we have furnished these two centers, and the equipment procurement is ongoing for this financial year. And additionally, we have recruited staff to operationalize the centers in terms of the regulation of the operations in those centers. At Intungamo Beneficiation Center, we intend to put up the Mineral Market 14. We conducted massive sensitization last year in December, and we are ready to commence the mineral market at Intungamo Beneficiation Center and establish that mineral market that will regulate the trade in tin, and it will also regulate the prices that tin is being sold, and definitely it will also protect investment in the sector. So the ministry is going ahead to construct 2 more beneficiation centers in Busia, where we already have the land, and in Moroto district. That is the plan for 2026-2027 to have additional 2 beneficiation centers, and these centers will host the mineral markets. So the mineral markets and the buying center, the purpose is to enable us regulate trade in minerals. For the beginning, we are piloting with 4 centers. We are having Busia, we are having Kampala, and we are going to have Moroto as well, and we are looking at Bueju. And the choice of the first priority is based on availability of the land, because in most of the other areas, though we plan to have 7 mineral markets, but we are still to go through the process of procurement of land. We have already initiated the draft regulation for the mineral market, because when you're operating the markets,
just
you
1
need
minute from
yes,
the chair.
Commissioner, I wanted to inquire.
Yes, please.
You, under the gold refineries, you said you have Wagagai and you have registered 4 others, but you didn't tell us the 4 refineries you've registered. Would you mind to?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, thank you so much, Vice Chairman. It's not classified. We have the Urugol refinery that was launched. We have one which is called Fago Minerals, which is in Entebbe. Fago. Yes. Then there is one called Feldstein in Kampala. Feldstein, yes. Feldstein. Then we have one refinery called Shine With Us. Shine With Us. Yes. So those are the 4 refineries that fulfill the requirements of the law. The others we are still processing. The likes of Thaba, of Simba, and others we are still processing for consideration of grant. Yes, I was on the mineral market, and I said we plan to have 7 mineral markets across the country and 10 buying centers. Mineral markets are different from buying centers in a sense that the buying centers we locate it near to the mining site, and the mineral market are centralized. That's why we are having it in Kampala, in Busia, but around each point of the mine, we will have the mineral buying center. So for this financial year, we are going to have 4 that we are looking at. In terms of weighbridge installation, Chair, we have acquired land for the installation of the 2 weighbridges in Napak and in Bulambuli. In Napak, we've completed geotechnical surveys, and the procurement of the contractor to install the weighbridges is in the final stages. We are finalizing the procurement for the installation of the weighbridges. The ministry plans to install specific mineral weighbridges in Bulambuli and Napak before this end of this financial year. Since we have already progressed with the procurement of the installation for the weighbridges in this area, the challenge we have been facing is the availability of land, which has generally largely been sorted out for these 2 stations. This will enable us to monitor the bulky mineral, the marble from Karamoja, the iron ore from the western in the next phase. So we are in the final stages for the installation of the weighbridges and monitoring of those mineral production, the bulky minerals that we cannot determine through the mineral markets. In terms of revenue growth, it was noted that the non-tax revenue grew from 11.3 billion to 39 billion in the financial year 2024-2025. Chair, we want to inform you that this increase in NTR was due to the payment of the signature bonus of USD 3.5 million by Sarai Group Limited, which was a requirement under the Mineral Production Sharing Agreement for the development of the Kilembe mines. And that is where we had that short in the NTR. But also, you may note that we have strengthened the monitoring, inspection, and verification of mineral production. We have been on the ground, and in a number of cases, we have conducted enforcement and cancellation of some of the mineral licenses that are not performing. So we have that increase, partly also due to the strengthening of the monitoring and inspection by the ministry. We project that this should still further increase as in line with the 10-fold growth strategy. Of course, all factors remaining constant if there are no policy shifts and other directions. So the total amount which is recovered from the outstanding areas in terms of the outstanding areas of the 3.2 billion, we have assessed and collected 582 million, and this includes 459 in annual mineral rent and 122 million in royalties. We also note that a big chunk of this annual mineral rent was arising from the default of the Kilembe Mines Limited, and a tune of 2.297 million. That was the arrears by Kilembe Mines Limited. And in line with the meeting that we had with the Auditors General, the Auditor General advised the Ministry to consider waiving this rent from Kilembe Mines, and the Ministry addressed the Ministry of Finance on the same, and I believe that this paper is before Parliament this afternoon. Yes, in terms of enforcement capacity, the Ministry of Public Service, we have recruited additional 18 inspectors this financial year. They have just reported this quarter. They are undergoing induction to strengthen mineral production monitoring and verification in the country. We have also stepped up our monitoring and enforcement arm, where we conduct joint inspections with the Police Mineral Protection Unit, and we are undertaking operational ZABO, enforcing compliance with the law in terms of mining without a license, environmental degradation, and all the other aspects are required under the law. So we are undertaking enforcement, and we are going to continue with this until there is compliance in the sector. The Ministry is putting in place a digital monitoring system, digital production monitoring system, to monitor and regulate bulky mineral commodities. These are the ones which are connected to the weighbridge infrastructure. We expect all mineral consignments to pass through these weighbridges. We are going to start with the Karamoja, which is immediate, and we are also expecting mobile weighbridges that we are going to put on the southwestern route. The Ministry, of course, is committed to ensure that there is compliance. And in this financial year, that the coming financial year that we are looking at, under the recurrent budget, we have 16 billion, and under the 13 billion, sorry, under the project, we have only 6 billion, and this is supposed to cater for regulation of the sector. We have a number of regulations which have been lined up. We have the law, the Building Substances Bill, that seeks to regulate those building substances that were excluded from the definition of minerals in the Constitution, and we need to come up also with a regulation. It involves a lot of consultations. We are going to have consultations on the mineral market regulations. We have local content for the mineral sector. We have a number of regulations that we need to put in place. Community development. We need to equip the mineral market and the beneficiation center on the side of regulation and the construction of those sites. So the budget which is allocated seems to be inadequate to undertake all these plan that the sector has, that the department has. Thank you so much, Chair. And through the PS, I get back the mic.
Thank you very much, Madam Alaba, for that honest submission. Now, Chair, we shall request your indulgence in order to keep in the spirit of mining. We first skip the UNOC segment. We handle the National Mining Company because it's related, and then we will circle back to UNOC, if that's okay. So Dr. Banaga, the CEO UNMC, is here, Gerald. He will handle everything on page 37 and then combine it with your substantive submission on page 120. So you will do both and you close everything UNMC. 37 and then page 120.
man used to be a minister of finance, so I'm sure he knows these things very well.
In which republic?
In the Republic of Makerere.
Thank you, Chairperson. Through the Permanent Secretary and the Honorable Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, I wish to submit on page 37, and by way of introduction, the Uganda National Mining Company is a state company that has been created to pursue the interests of the state in the minerals and mining sector. Put simply, to try to turn the potential into the real wealth. On the UNMC capitalization for Uganda National Mining Company, 100 billion capitalization, we require 15% free carried interest implementation, and this is in eligible licenses, engagements, expected revenues, and by eligible licenses, these are licenses which were awarded after the 2022 Mining and Minerals Act. Commercial equity participation in Wagagai Gold, Orom Cross Graphite, Kirembe Joint Operating Agreement, equity position, asset handover and production timelines under the MPSS signed between the government of Uganda and represented by Minister of Energy and the mining company, the obligations under that MPSA, and we have entered into a joint operating agreement which has placed significant obligations on the National Mining Company. There is a sorotine exploration, and then the operationalization of the Ruengoma Beneficiation Center, which has just been alluded to. Capitalization. Now, the 15% state participation, we have listed that in table 16. The first license is by Sandbird Resources. We have also included the projected revenues, about $135 million. On the next page, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, page 38, you have the next license by Namenkara Mining Company Limited, and this is dealing in vermiculite. The project the license of Renzo Rare Metals Limited, we are dealing with rare earth elements. The projected revenues are $890 million. We are undertaking due diligence on 2 other licenses. That is by ARM Investments Limited, major in kaolin, feldspar, industrial minerals, mica and beryllium, as well as Universal Granite and Marble Limited, which we are undertaking, and the numbers are yet to will be coming out in the first quarter of 2026-27. On the table 17, Chairperson or members, we are undertaking a government-to-government, business action with Wagagai. Wagagai got the license before the 2022 Mining and Minerals Act, and therefore we do not have the right of the 15% free carried interest. But this being a significant mineral venture in the country, it is only right and fitting that the state of Uganda participates in that, and we are undertaking business-to-business discussion with a view of partaking a stake in that venture. The second one is Consolidated Africa Limited, which is Orom Cross Graphite, which falls in the same category, and discussions are ongoing, Honorable Chairperson. The next is the Ruengoma Beneficiation Center, which the previous speaker included, that will be undertaking the commercial aspects of this beneficiation and mineral value addition, where we developed our business cases, and we plan to operationalize this in the next financial year. Honorable Chairperson, you recall our Honorable Minister indicated that it is challenging to buy and trade gold.
the National Mining Company is going to participate in the trading of minerals. We have 53 minerals, step by step, and we are starting with gold. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, we're establishing gold model mines for business and demonstration purposes. Business, because for us we are commercial, but once you establish a good model, this should be able to be replicated throughout the mining areas. And so far, we have signed 2 memoranda of understanding with artisanal groups that have been licensed by the ministry, and these are Mubende United Mining Association and Buweju Association, which is Budmix, and we are going to develop their 2 model mines. On the asset handover, Chairperson, honorable members, the National Mining Company received assets from the former, from the Kirembe Mines Limited, and these assets were handed over to the company, and these assets are in 3 categories. Category A are those which are required for the immediate operationalization of the project, that is the Kirembe development, and these were to be delivered to the Sarai Group at the commencement of the MPSA. This was a condition precedent. The category B are those assets which are made available should the operator deem them necessary and has got to make proposals to the National Mining Company on the requirement of these, and the terms of use have got to be agreed on. Category C, there are other assets which were transferred to the National Mining Company but are not subject to the mineral production sharing agreement, and therefore they are with the National Mining Company for use, strategic use, development, and generation of revenue and income for the company and for the country. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development engaged the Office of the Auditor General to undertake a detailed audit and valuation of all assets formerly owned by Kirembe Mines, and were handed over to the National Mining Company. The idea is to ensure we get the actual value of these assets so that we are able to place them on our books of accounts. And the consultants are taking that assignment, and the final report is yet to be submitted. Honorable Chairperson, the National Mining Company is 1 year and a few months old, but we already acquired 18 exploration licenses, and one of the priority initiatives for us in this first 1 year was to acquire this license, and then we are developing it, and the exploration area is located in Sanza sub-county in Kisoro district, and the size of the area is 591.87 hectares. There is now a need to conduct exploration studies to ascertain the quantity and quality of tin in the exploration area, with the aim of developing the resource into a viable mining operation. The studies will include geological mapping, geochemical surveys, geophysical surveys, geotechnical investigations, as well as targeted drilling to ascertain the depth of the ore. Thereafter, all the data obtained will be interpreted and the model for the ore system developed for resource estimation. And therefore, the budget allocated in this next financial year is to cover the technical and support activities, to transport the laboratory analysis, and the hire of the equipment and the consumables. Honorable Chairperson, through the Minister, the PS asked me to cover the other aspect of the National Mining Company. I therefore invite you to proceed and go to page 120, please. Chairperson, on page 120, a number of issues were raised. Issue number 1 was what is the current status of the Kirembe Mines development, including the structure of the partnership between the identified developer and the National Mining Company, and what role does Kirembe Mines Limited itself play. The Kirembe Mines development is structured under a mineral production sharing agreement signed on the 3rd of March 2025
between the government of Uganda, represented by the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, and the Uganda National Mining Company holding the 15%, and Sarai Group Limited holding 80%, and Nile Fiber Board Limited holding 5%. The Uganda National Mining Company executed the transfer instrument of the licenses to the licensee, that is National Mining Company, Sarai and Nile Fiber Board, and the contractor is yet to accomplish this instrument. The Mineral Production Sharing Agreement requires the license to negotiate a joint operating agreement, and this we have undertaken and was finalized and signed on the 9th of January 2026. That joint operating agreement provides for, among other things, 1, the appointment, resignation, removal, and responsibilities of Sarai Group Limited as the operator, the establishment of an operating committee comprising of an agreed number of representatives of parties comprising the licensee and chaired by the operator, the functions of the said operating committee taking into account the provisions of the Mineral Production Sharing Agreement, condition and procedures for decision-making, frequency and the place of meetings, contribution to costs, default, sole risk, withdrawal, disposal of mineral products, the joint venture accounting procedures, and assignment between the parties to the joint operating agreement, the rights and obligations of the parties comprising the licensee. Subsequent to the signing of the joint operating agreement, a kickoff meeting was held on the 10th of February 2026, at which the operator outlined the key activities of the coming months across the 3 planning horizons. Short term, the regulatory clearances, geological data consolidation, completion of metallurgical test works, and underground access rehabilitation. Medium term, 6 to 18 months, commencement of tailings processing, selective underground mining restart, and the commissioning of the concentrator plant. And the long term, that's beyond 18 months, resource expansion, drilling, production scale-up, and the full life of mine planning. The initial underground focus will be on the lower and middle Bukangama stream and office deposits where historical data indicates remaining mineable resources. Activities include dewatering, rehabilitation of haulages, drifts and shafts, ground support design, rock mass classification, and reestablishment of ventilation, power, pumping, and escape infrastructure. Our private partner has committed to commence production of copper cathodes by July 2027. The role of Kirembe Mines Limited, the company which owned the assets formerly, and these assets were handed over to the National Mining Company in May 2025 and were categorized under the category A, B, and C, which I indicated to earlier. Now, that company, the shareholders resolved to wind it up. And the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development engaged the Office of the Auditor General to conduct a detailed audit and valuation of all these assets formerly owned by Kirembe Mines Limited. And as previously indicated, the final report is still pending, but should be in by June. Issue number 2, Chairperson, honorable members. The issue was, what are the revenue projections over the medium term from extraction, processing, auxiliary services, and how are we aligning these with investment and production? The revenue projections for Kirembe Mines Development Project are based on the financial model developed for the brownfield mining license, where the resource is relatively well defined, the CAPEX and OPEX defined as well. The Kirembe Mines Development Project comprises of 2 types of licenses: exploration license, that's for the greenfield, the area which is not yet explored, and the mining license, that is for the resource which is already known, which we normally call the brownfield. This was previously a mine, that's why it's called brown. Current projections are limited to the brownfield area, with an upside expected from future discoveries in the exploration license. The revenue streams, production and revenues are projected to commence in the year 2028 for a period of 11 years, with peak production expected from 2032 to 2035. Revenues will be generated from copper, primary revenue driver, and then cobalt recovered from the tailings. The table below shows the project total production and revenues. From the primary revenue source, which is the copper, about the tons 234,736 with a projected revenue of $2.3 billion. Cobalt, the production in tonnage 21,062 with a projected revenue of $862 million. The cobalt recovered from the tailings in tonnage, in tons 3,463 with a projected revenue of $143 million United States dollars. Total projected life of the mine revenue from the brownfield operations is approximately United States dollars 3.44 billion.
Procedure, Mr. Chairman.
Procedure.
Mr. Chairman, it seems we have a challenge. The subject of this meeting is so interesting, but we have a parliamentary plenary. I beg for your guidance, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Luimba Zinalukola. Like you have rightly so pointed out, I was alive to the fact that we have plenary, but then I didn't want to interject when Dr. Gerald Banaga is trying to delve into the National Mining Company. I intended that once he has concluded, then we could delve into how do we go from here, depending on the time that is left of us.
Mr. Chairman, his submission seems to be lengthy, and yet we had to prepare before.
I understand. You see, we are torn apart between having a short skirt, but then also suffer the rebuke along the streets from people that are not used to seeing shorter skirts, or probably wear a very long skirt and yet navigate the potholes of Kampala, which have stagnant water. You have to jump. So, yeah, the shorter skirt allows you to jump, but people will rebuke you. The longer skirt will not allow you to jump over water, and yet it will be more decent. So that is the thing. So I believe that so I think in the circumstances as said by the minister, we just choose to wear the trouser. So anyway, the gist of the matter is just that we have a challenge in the sense that National Mining Company, for instance, is a new baby on the block. It's the first time we get to hear in detail what the first year is, what our thinking is. So sometimes if we tell such a child that, no, let you not be heard, the next time we're supposed to speak for them, probably the minister will not be around, probably Dr. Banaga will not be there. Many a time, your chair goes to budget committee alone, or probably, if I'm lucky, with some of you. So if I don't learn from them, the other side, I may look a little bit of a dimwit. So one day that let's allow National Mining Company to finish up, which I suppose is going to do in about 5 minutes or so. Then no, don't look at the papers as a way to determine how much work do you have to do. You see, here we are no longer lucky to attend lessons so that we can cram what the teacher had said and you don't have to read. Let's look at the information he needs to share other than the pieces of paper that he has to go through. He could actually speak on those 2 papers in 1 minute. Yeah, so Dr. Banaga, please.
Mr. Chairman, I am praying because these are very critical matters and we may not have such a meeting. Since an hour ago, I was challenged with the same problem. I was running between here and the office of the Speaker because there is a very critical matter in my constituency that I want to be addressed. But I want to pray that we don't close this meeting. Some members can go in the House briefly, and they come back here and we continue to transact this business, because these are very critical matters where we may not have chance again to proceed. And I want to plead with members that only Mia is allowed to go to the House.
I perfectly understand you, Honorable Shabi. As you might recall, in 2019-2020, a few of us got into trouble over your constituency and Buejo when we tried to inquire into things to do with his docket. So I believe that members need to really speak into these matters. That is why we were careful to provide that the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, unlike Water and Environment, has a second day. I don't believe that tomorrow could be completely tied into electricity and those other companies or institutions therein. In the event that there are things that we are not able to conclude over headquarters, because the gist of the matter is headquarters, we can roll them over to tomorrow. So we will not rush you to wrap up, because we believe that you contribute a lot. The ministry, like the PS was thanking us, is only able to make gains by way of budget provision, improved assessment by the other stakeholders on account of the quality reports that we produce as a committee and the arguments we put before the House. So we understand that there is need for us to take a bit of time. So what we do for now is let's allow Dr. Banaga to conclude, and then I probably guide the committee in light of the fact that we have 25 minutes to plenary. The second argument you brought, that the committee can continue while plenary is on, is a fairly one of somebody who should have been a campaign manager of my opponent in the village. Because I cannot take the luxury of risking to run a committee meeting when the head of institution is running a plenary there. Maybe that should have been in different times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think I'm going to summarize, because this baby company really requires this committee. I think in the next table we have the phased revenue build-up, which is very clear. But maybe the next page, Chairperson, is alignment with investment production schedule. What is observed is that the capital investment is front-loaded to enable rehabilitation of the underground works, the processing plant, the refurbishment, the mining infrastructure, in order to enable the revenue generation to begin. The outcomes, we have already indicated that the revenue is 3.4. The net present value in United States dollars is $131 million, and the internal rate of return at 19.3. The conclusion of that, Honorable Chairperson, is that the economic analysis indicates that the project is commercially viable. That's the main issue. And then
going to be addressed once the final report is out. And they will be presented to government. Issue number 5, the plan for value addition, and that is local smelting, refining, beneficiation, and so on. The National Mining Company has developed a strategic investment plan for 2025-26 to 2029-30, which prioritizes domestic processing, refining, downstream infrastructure as a core strategic objective aimed at transitioning Uganda from a raw mineral exporter to a fully integrated mineral-based industrial economy. And this strategic investment plan has several objectives, but value addition, I must add, is at the cornerstone of that investment plan. For the interest of time, Chairperson, let me leave these objectives because we will share that strategic investment plan. On the bottom of page 127, Chairperson and honorable members, we have indicated that we have done the joint operating agreement, and that includes the commitments for the construction and operation of a concentrator plant for copper and cobalt. There is a concentrator plant at Kilembe, and we are now undertaking tests on that concentrator plant, and a decision will be made whether it can be utilized, rehabilitated, or whether a new one is required. The concentrator plant is a very significant infrastructure at a mine. And the investor has committed to produce cathode copper by July 2027, as previously indicated. Issue number 6, Chairperson, on page 128. It was how many direct and indirect jobs do you expect to create during the development phase? First, at beneficial facilities, 3,000 jobs over the next 5 years. At the mines, Kilembe mines, 2,600 direct jobs, 600 will be permanent, and 2,500 part-time, and 1,000 indirect jobs over a 5-year period. 3, support formalization, around 7,000 jobs over the next 5 years, and then, of course, only 400 by the National Mining Company, direct ones for the 5-year period. But I must add that the multiplier effect of these are significant and will be seen throughout the economy in the next years. Issue number 7, Chairperson, the community development and local content programs. The National Mining Company community development and local content commitments are reflected both in our strategic investment plan and the budget. First, the Mineral Production Sharing Agreement provides the creation of the Training and Research Fund, for which shall be managed and administered by the licensee as provided under the Joint Operating Agreement. And what does this mean? The licensee is required to avail funds totaling to Uganda shillings 2 billion per 12 months following the commencement of production, and each anniversary thereafter into a training and research fund for persons seconded by the government. Community and stakeholder engagement is a key activity. A local content strategy and partnership, and 2.2 billion in the financial year 26-27, and 16.52 for over the next 5 years is budgeted to develop and implement this local content strategy and partnership. On the mining skills, which are very critical for the sector, 1.04 billion is budgeted for the financial 26-27, and 5.04 billion for the next 5 years for developing and implementing the mining skills. The economic empowerment of communities. These minerals lie within the communities. It is critical that during their exploitation, the communities are considered, and we are budgeting 150 million for the economic empowerment initiatives. We have the small and medium enterprise participation, for instance, on the gold mode mines, which are in Buweju, for Budmix and Muma in Kasanda. These have been structured for the small and medium enterprise participation in the gold value chain, including formal buying centers, laboratory activities, and testing and support to the area. The total initial investment for the 2 artisanal and small-scale mining joint ventures is approximately 3.9 billion. The infrastructure, the National Mining Company obligations at the Kilembe complex, including management of hospitals, schools, churches, mosques, utilities, that's electricity and water, which serve host communities. Issue number 8, Honorable Chairperson, is the coordination between the Ministry, the Ghana National Mining Company, and NEMA. The Ministry operates under the direct oversight. The National Mining Company operates under the direct oversight of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, who are the principal shareholders and also provide a regulatory interface. The Asia and environmental compliance requirements, regulatory clearances, including ASEA implementation, are listed as priority activities, and these are done and approved by the National Environmental Management Authority according to their requirements. The mine closure planning is part of the long-term life of mine planning horizon, that is between 18 months, and being formed by the ongoing resource expansion drilling and the full concentrator plant assessment. Honorable Chairperson, the environmental monitoring, an environment, social and governance framework and plan is budgeted for. It is critical for the mining, when you're undertaking a mining activity, that you have this environmental and social governance framework and plan. And this is budgeted and will govern ongoing environmental monitoring obligations, quarterly site visits and technical inspections involving not only the National Mining Company staff, but by the board, and the policymakers are also planned and budgeted for to ensure oversight of operations, including environmental performance at Kirembe and other sites that the National Mining Company will be operating. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, through our Permanent Secretary and the Honorable Minister, I beg to submit.
Dr. Banaga, do you have enough money for this? Through the PS, do you have enough money for this very, very robust presentation? In summary. You press. Oh, it's on.
Honorable Chairperson, the funds required to develop the mining are very significant. And you may not easily find all those funds from one source, for instance, government funding. But what the government can do, what the state can do, is to capitalize the company so that we can leverage that capitalization to attract private funding and joint ventures. And the Ministry of Finance has promised a capitalization of 100 billion per financial year, beginning the next financial year, and the Honorable Minister will be able to explain further, and our task is to ensure, to see that if that funding can come through. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
So in the budget, we have 65 billion.
Yes. For capitalization. So there's 35 as per their promise for each year. Okay. That is the part we wanted to pick up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, let's have the PS wrap up, and then Honorable Patrick Nsambo Shabe, in 5 minutes you'll go the other side to raise a matter of national importance.
Okay, so we are largely concluding the ministry presentation. There was issue number 7 on supply of petroleum products. The Honorable Minister gave an extensive update on the status of petroleum stocks, so we will not require UNOC to go through that. She also highlighted some of the interventions. UNOC was going to talk about storage, Kampala storage terminal, those she highlighted. The Minister also updated you on the KPC equity stake. In the report, we have provided the benefits for the team to appreciate. You requested for the breakdown of the 2 billion infrastructure financing to UNOC. That we have given the breakdown in the report. There's only one aspect on page 40 on Kabalega Industrial Park. Chairman, within 2 minutes, if you allowed UNOC to just summarize where they are, then we can say we've concluded vote 17 for purposes of presentation. And then we'll be left with the PAU. For day 1, we're supposed to have also 100 votes, 139. Then we can start with that in the morning so that we complete this segment. Okay, so Honorable Minister, allow me invite UNOC briefly on Kabalega Industrial Park, very briefly. And we close the headquarters.
Hello? So it's on.
Mr. Kasule, move.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Chair, through our PS and the Minister. A quick update on the industrial park. On page 41, we have updated the master plan for the park, and it has several zones that are earmarked for development, and they are listed there. The services fee for the proposed investors who will be coming into the park was approved by Cabinet on the 7th of April, and this kick-started the process of inviting investors into the park, and we have gone through a pilot phase. But before that, the rates that were approved by Cabinet are there, $1.55 per square meter per year for general industries, $1 for prioritized industry, $1.25 per square meter per year for prioritized industries, and $1 per square meter per year for residential. So we have commenced the investor engagement with the pilot phase, and we had initially 17 investors that showed interest, and so far we have processed about 9, which will probably go to offer of lease. And then we expect a phase 2 in June, which will be public, where we'll invite investors for the next block of plots in the park to apply for sub-leases. Okay. Infrastructure, we have progressed with the law proposed. There's an elaborate process in our land allocation policy that they go through, and we should be able to sieve out all those potential land grabbers. So with regard to the infrastructure development, which we are targeting phase 1, we have a submission that has gone through the development committee of the Ministry of Finance, and it's at the tail end of the approval process, and we are hoping that we'll go through a bidding process in the next 3 or 4 months, and then we start processing the application for the loan. And we are hoping that construction, July, August, design and construction should commence. The international airport, which is being implemented by the Ministry of Works, but we work closely together with them. Our report to date is that they're about 98%, almost there. But what is holding it back for handover is the mobile control tower and some equipment for the meteorological services for the airport. And they had expected it to be handed over in March, but I think they extended to July because of the shipment of the equipment. Uganda Civil Aviation Authority is also handling the commencement of operations of the airport through certification and recruitment of staff and training. So that is the brief update from Enoch on the industrial park.
So, Chair, that winds up vote 17, and we request the committee to note page 44. We are like Oliver Twist. There is always a funding gap. Yes, but the one that we really want to emphasize tied to the oil refinery is the refined products pipeline, where we need to complete the compensation for the corridor. In the budget, we have about 15 billion, but the actual budget is about 57 billion. We can continue engaging the team to give any further information, but please note page 44. Back to you, Honorable Minister.
Chair, I want to thank you so much for the guidance you have continued to give the committee, the ministry. And I hope that tomorrow we'll be able to engage further so that we move in tandem and support the budget and seek for more money so that we can see the tenfold economic development. Then lastly, just for purposes of clarifying to Honorable Patrick Oshabe, we were under instruction to continue promoting productive use of electricity. And so we were guided by the chief executive or the head of state to make priority to load centers. These are schools, these are hospitals that we have, these are industrial areas that because we are looking for jobs, our people need jobs. But this does not mean that we will not focus on making sure that the parishes, because we are implementing parish model, where we are emphasizing value addition to the agricultural products, we are emphasizing that in a parish where we have a load center in terms of a maize mill, milling, that is going to be the target. And at the end, we are going to see an expansion of electricity supply in this country. I wanted to make that clarification to all of you, Chair.
Chair, that was tickling me, but we shall start from there tomorrow.
I want to so very much thank the Minister for ensuring that we put a comma to today's engagement on a high. Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister. We're always happy to have you. The Honorable Minister just reminded me that she's always happy to come to the committee in person, but I also wish to remind the Minister that it's a long time since we danced. It's almost coming to 2 years now. You see, when something is one that you are fond of, a year is like 3 years. So in this case, it's almost 2 years. But nonetheless, we want to appreciate you, honorable colleagues, the Minister and her team, for today's engagement. I am trying to push us to conclude the conversations this week, because until now we have speculation. Those that are supposed to be part of the 12th Parliament are meant to be in Chankwazi, but until now they don't know whether it's next week or wherever. So I don't want us as a committee, it's confirmed. Well, we haven't, we, the students, have not yet got that communication. So the Minister somehow, tongue-in-cheek, is saying it's next week. So I would like us to finish everything else that is to do with our sector, so that in the event that we probably are away next week, the technical teams are preparing a very thorough report for purposes of us to conclude. So I pray that, colleagues, we are here tomorrow morning so that we wrap up with what we have left of today and also pick on what we had planned to do tomorrow. Therefore, the meeting suspended.
Let's agree that you begin with us tomorrow, when we begin the meeting.
Now, Oshabe, you would like me to hand over the office of chairman to you. Unfortunately, I have understood. Your concerns as my members are taken deeply at heart. The meeting is suspended until 9 o'clock tomorrow, the 2nd of April, 2026. I thank you, Honorable Minister. shall be.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Exercise can't be sustained. Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight. Come and give it a try. Ginshikang L-carnitine chromium capsules. Plant extract, scientific ratio. Take 3 capsules each time. The active ingredient accelerates fat burning, eat twice a day, don't take a detour. Weight loss starts now. Ginshikang L-carnitine with chromium capsules helps you stay in shape. Please follow medical advice when taking this product. For more information, visit our website www.hgo.com or call 0800 335555.
Operation Wealth Creation is a Ugandan presidential initiative launched in 2013 to transition subsistence farmers into commercial production. The aim was to boost household income and reduce poverty.
Musevenomics point number 10 is bringing everybody into the money economy. And I'm very happy that all those have been realized.
Operation Wealth Creation is a good program. Has succeeded primarily through distribution of quality seeds.
We are deep now in APA. We are busy distributing the seeds, all sorts of seeds. Farmer groups are here.
The President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has always appreciated the Chief Coordinator of Operation Wealth Creation, General Caleb Akandwanaho Salim Saleh, for boosting Uganda's fight against poverty and increasing households in the money economy from 30% in 2013 to 70% today.
The issue of wealth creation, we saw that Uganda would be very successful if we go back to develop the indigenous wealth, modernize it.
UBC TV, with a mandate to promote government programs, brings you a special weekly program on Operation Wealth Creation activities in the country.
We have about 45 acres of maize, which is already ready for harvest.
After giving them the seeds, they put into proper use, and now we are seeing the quality.
Join us as we travel various regions to showcase Operation Wealth Creation successful stories. Don't miss Operation Wealth Creation, moving people into money economy. Coming soon. This week on UBC.
We are living in a society where mothers and fathers both have to work to make sure their families survive. So you're saying I'm supposed to breastfeed for 6 months exclusively?
Apart from the medical conditions, there are other things like psychological. If the mother is not emotionally right, that affects production of breast milk, hence failing to breastfeed your child. How do you know that your nipple is everted? How do you know that your nipple is flat? How do you know that your breast is not going to be able to produce milk? Things like that. Those are the things that we are supposed to do before we start the breastfeeding process.
Men, it is very irresponsible of you to begin fighting for breast milk with your baby. So fathers, husbands, and men, please, let's stop it.
The Doc Talk Show.
This weekend on UBC.
Now, for the woman, if she goes to complain to you, Pastor Cyrus, you will tell her, does he come home? Does he pay for the children's fees? Does he buy food? Go home and respect him.
That's stupid.
You will quote for me scripture. Maybe he might even change because of me.
What scripture? What scripture am I going to quote?
That one exactly.
Which one?
You go home if you're married to a non-believer, because right now he's behaving like a non-believer, maybe perhaps he will change because of your good behavior.
You see, if both of you are believers, one of the greatest things you need to know is that God must come into this marriage.